Hello and welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya and I have back today my dear mentor, Dr. Santhip Kanholy. Welcome, Santhip.
Namaste, Katya. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me again. So this is actually, we have two new moons in 1 month. So if we have two full moons in 1 month, it's called a blue moon. I don't know what it's called when we have two new moons in 1 month. I'm sure it has a special name actually, but the second one we have is the solar eclipse. So this chart is the first one, which is April 1st, 17 degrees of Pisces, Revati Nakshatra. This is the Pisces new moon, which is what we use in Vedic astrology as like the chart of the year ahead. So basically, this is when the new year would start. And this chart not only tells us what's going on in April, but it tells us what's going on in the next 12 months. So what do you think about this?
Well, as you can see in the chart, Jupiter is in the 12th house and, it's about to conjunct Neptune. More and more, I would say Saturn is about to get hit by Mars. So, that's the real cause of concern. And usually this is the month preceding the eclipse, actually. Eclipse which will happen sometime in April. So that's when you'll have to watch out for. So this is going to be a month where, again, even though we'll be filled with plans and desires and so forth, but then take it easy kind of thing is the advice during this time period. Not to launch it completely and all that. Now, great for intellectual projects, but you might find challenging to get it executed also on the practical side. I would again, you'll find that there is a more, now this for the entire year, this kind of sets the tone. Jupiter is in 12th house and all that. So that is also setting very interesting kind of energy. So a lot of learning, a lot of spirituality that will be activated right now. And it is falling in Pisces, which is naturally a spiritual sign also. It's kind of a good time period, even though we did have our New Year's resolution. I'm sure we all took our New Year's resolution this past December. In the Vedic system, when new moon is happening in Pisces, when the actual New Year's resolution is taken. So that's when, because now when Sun enters into Aries, you can begin a lot of good things at that point. So I can really encourage to try to see how your past 12 months have been, what have you learned, what do you want to go from here, all that. And you'll see that is an excellent time period. And the seeds you planned in right now, and it's happening in Pisces, which is a natural house of retreat also. 12th house of retreat and all that. So it's also important. Now, the good thing is that Jupiter will be joining Pisces in April. So that's great. Venus is also going to get the exalter also soon. So that's also, all that is great. But then what I would encourage when this particular new moon is happening, especially in Revati Nakshatra, is to take some time out for yourself, actually. Not in a isolated thing, but have some simple things, try to do something which you like doing and all that. That probably thing is what I would encourage. The challenge here is that Saturn is aspecting this new moon. So it is almost like there will be this backdrop of stress which you have to deal with, but you will be able to overcome that quite easily. But like I said, Mars-Saturn conjunction happened this month. For sure, there'll be problems. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you're not fighting over issues. Now, that's when the real estate thing could have problems and so forth also. Usually, I would say this when watch out for your heart is what I would say. Dhanishta is connected with the heart, actually, your rhythm of your heart. So a lot of people having a lot of heart problems could be actual thing, actually. So make sure you're preparing your heart, you're working out, walking, all that. That whole thing I can really encourage.
And also, Saturn's in his own sign and Mars is exalted. So even though they're going to be together, I think that helps us to be productive with this combination because, Saturn provides the fuel for the fire of Mars. Yeah. So this is like kind of a workaholic combination. The problem is Pluto. Pluto is going to bring death and transformation. And Pluto, is the power of the small, so like a virus that can take you down, right? So, that can influence this energy. But I think the Mars exaltation calms him down a little bit. So he's not so out of control. but Mars is giving his fourth aspect to Rahu. So, you know, and it's in Rahu's in Mars' sign. So it's definitely going to be testy. You know, the energy is going to be, you got to use the energy. If you don't, then it could get out of control.
Yeah. What I really encourage, again, the violence is a real challenge. Mars is exalted, Rahu and all that. Make sure you're not becoming violent to yourself. Make sure you're not becoming violent to others in your life. Usually sibling problems is what I would be more cautious about. Friends problems and all that. Mars is siblings also, blood-related siblings. So just watch out for that. Try to not feed into this temporary weather and create big long-term issues which you have to sort out in the future. Or, you know, in worst case, you have to be born to the earth plane again until you make peace with this particular sibling. You know, so that's a different thing. You have multiple lifetimes again. So you assume, okay, you'll be done with this particular person in this lifetime. Not really, you know, because you will not resolve your issues and so forth. Yeah. But it's a powerful time period for spiritual practices. I can say that without doubt. But workaholic thing is true. But don't do so at the cost of your own health or of your own heart also. Suppose that.
So the exact conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune is on the 12th, which is after that. And it's at 29 degrees of Aquarius. So Jupiter's moving up to Neptune by the end of the month. And then we've got the full moon, which has Jupiter-Venus conjunction. Jupiter's in his own sign. Venus is exalted. That's very good. Well, Jupiter enters Pisces first. Hello, that's major. And then Neptune enters Pisces. So basically what's happening is all this stuff is going to shove up into Pisces and then overflow into Aries over this year into next year. And so, you know, Pisces is a very spiritual sign. And I think that there is going to be a more, you know, we are going to be forced into becoming whatever you think is more spiritual. But the fact is that in order to have those epiphanies in life, you have to go through difficulty. You have to go through challenges. So Pisces isn't just about, oh, spiritual, blah, blah, blah. No, it's the spirituality you gain after going through these challenges. And that can be seen through the fixed star called Sheet, which in the sidereal zodiac is at about 4 to 5 degrees of Pisces. And so, and then Markab is right after that at like 8 degrees or something. So those are really tough stars. But if you can get through those difficulties, then they give you very good rewards, like literary abilities, poetic abilities, you know, the ability to make sense and beauty out of all of the tragedy that's happened. So yeah, we're going to have a spiritual revolution, but it's going to be at the cost of tragedies and difficulties. And so as I think we're seeing all these heavy hitter planets move up into Pisces, that's where things are going. It's, you know, by 2023, all this is going to come to a head. And then we have our first eclipse of the year. We have a second. Oh, you know what? I made a mistake. I was wrong. We don't have 2 new moons in 1 month. We do have 2 full moons in 1 month. It is a blue moon. So I was wrong. That's a lovely part of my dyslexia. It likes to switch things. But it is a blue moon. We have the second full moon, which is here. And actually, I put that up on the next page so that we could take a look at that, because that's going to also set the energy for this year as well. So here, so ignore this. This should say full moon, not new moon. But down here, it's correct. And it is at 4:28 p.m. on the 30th. At 16 degrees of Aries, Bharani. And this is where, you know, this, once Mars goes up into Aries and it is there with Uranus, things are going to get very violent and angry. And, you know, we could have accidents there with Uranus. So this is the only full moon chart that we'll talk about in this presentation, but I wanted to get a handle on this so that we could understand the next, the lunar eclipse that comes in 2 weeks. So what do you think about this?
Well, the eclipse is a big deal, of course. It sets the tone the 6 months from that eclipse time period. So it is a very important thing to consider. It is happening. Well, this eclipse is happening in Bharani Nakshatra. Well, Kritika is where Rahu is there also. So the challenge with this eclipse is again, Saturn is now aspecting this eclipse, which is not a good thing. And it's happening very close to the debutation point of Saturn, which I mentioned earlier. So it is a foreshadowing of challenging and all that. Now, Bharani Nakshatra is a nakshatra where Saturn gets debilitated. So you're kind of forced to end things that are no longer working out for you and all that. Usually that's when you might see people quitting their job more often. Any job you quit during the eclipse time or you join during eclipse time, that's a bad decision anyways. That's the other thing. So you don't start a new job on the eclipse day. You don't quit a new job, quit an old job on the eclipse day. 100% you can say that's a bad decision. The other aspect I would say is also, because it's happening Bharani Nakshatra, it's also Nakshatra with controlling. Yama translates as restraint. So we'll be forced to find controlling ourselves in deeper way also. And Bharani is also a Nakshatra with sexuality actually. So you might find this sexuality becoming like an actual topic discussed about. Could be like problems around sexuality, could be challenges around sexuality or problematic sexuality thing also. All that could play out in many ways. Challenge is that because Rahu is in Kritika and Mars itself is in 11th house, so there is this challenges with, it will be a real theme in terms of, you'll begin to see all those problems with elephants. I mean, right now there is a group of viral elephants in China which was just going over villages and so forth. So
I saw that. Yeah, they've lost their GPS.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so you might see that kind of thing happening, and you might even see problems with bears. Actually, bears, you might see a bear thing happening, some violent bear thing happening, and all that. Now, Bharani is a nakshatra where you kind of have to isolate so that you can give birth. So this is a time period where you might find that the whole world is having to isolate so that a new thing can be born out of it actually. But it is guaranteed once any woman is pregnant, the child is guaranteed to come out 9 months later. Right? So the whole world will go through that kind of thing going on. That's a very important process also, and that's not an easy process. You have to take care of it and all that. So pregnancy is a different stage. Well, but the pregnant woman has to die for the mother to be born. So the other thing happens also. So that's also one more thing you'll have to go through also. So in general, people will be going through their own,
deeper issues. Reality.
Yeah. And this is a very powerful thing. This is a perfect opportunity. Uranus is exactly over the degree of 20 degrees where Saturn is getting debilitated. So that's where we'll be forced to see things in new ways actually. You'll be forced to change about and bring new energies into your life. And perhaps we'll actually start working towards it during that time period. Right. Saturn is also pointing that we don't allow ourselves to be, greedy, or we don't allow ourselves to be dismayed by the negativity, but we'll kind of have to face it. Now, Bharani Nakshatra is a tough nakshatra. I've seen that usually these nakshatra natives are capable of finishing a lot of tasks actually. So usually this is a time period when people will be forced to finish the tasks which they have been kept pending for a really long time. So that's one big thing we'll be able to see during that time period actually.
And look what's happening that day. I mean, look at this, Jupiter-Venus exact conjunction.
Yeah, that's correct. Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, that's an important point. So both the gurus are conjunct. So it's like your wife is giving you advice, the lawyer is also giving advice. So that kind of thing going on. So there's a Venus-Jupiter kind of thing going on. So usually, because the eclipse, now if you carefully look at the eclipse is happening on one side, Saturn, Mars on the other side of both Jupiter and Venus. So there's a time period where bad information could be coming your way, and could also be like the advice you are getting, at least what is in front of you is not being seen. So that's something you need to be cautious actually. And more importantly, I would say Jupiter-Venus conjunction, excellent time period for spiritual practices. Eclipses are days where you should be like literally chanting mantras. I cannot say it enough. There are people who just they don't do anything for the rest of the year. Eclipse days come, they'll chant all kinds of mantras, and they're set for you 6 months ahead. That's how powerful an eclipse is actually. If you can use that time period to chant mantras, to do spiritual practices, extremely powerful. Now, with Jupiter-Venus conjunction, it is happening in Uttara Bhadrapada Nakshatra also. So this is a nakshatra where, usually the second half begins to get better. With all Uttara Nakshatras, the second half of anything will always give results actually. So usually you'll begin to see some long-term planning. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the time period when James Cameron's new movie is about to be released actually. So I wouldn't be surprised, So he has some planets in Uttara Bhadrapada and all that.
Yes, excellent for movie stars.
Yeah. Excellent for movie stars. Yeah, movie people will be making a lot of money actually. Oh, yeah. So a lot more contracts coming their way and all that. For sure, not out of that. That I can say for sure. Now, this is excellent for movie stars, but creativity and all that. But at a personal level and even a health level also, people have to watch out for that and all that. Health level is really too much sugar. Yeah, Jupiter is weight. Jupiter is also easy, and put Venus there, which is also another weight gaining planet. Too much sweets, too much sugar.
Watch out in April.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Easter and all that, right? Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, definitely watch out for that.
All right.